be as active as possible there, because the work you put in not only benefits you, but also benefits your partners. And then towards the end, we'll be talking briefly about the Grad Slam competition for anyone who is joining this session specifically with that competition in mind. While we are kind of covering broad principles, we'll also address specifically how this can contribute to that. And then finally, we'll be talking very briefly about the concept of a hook. And I think I'll leave that just as that for now. And we'll get to that later on.
And I'm going to apologize in advance. David and I are going back and forth. So the recording part we meant to launch at the beginning of this session, but hopefully that's okay with everybody. We are going to keep this interactive, but let me go to our next slide. And so, there's typically a framework for creating your pitch or presentation. And again, this workshop's all purpose. Our ideas are that you could use this for anything from your elevator pitch to competing in Grad Slam, to a conference presentation, to just talking with your family, for instance, about what you do. So some of this will not be surprising to you, but usually the questions that we frame our presentations around are, what are you studying? What are you trying to find out? And how are you doing that, or will do that? For those of you who are new grad students who maybe haven't started research yet, thinking about what your methods are, but not methods as you might write up for a journal article, but rather how you're doing this in the day-to-day. So what I'm going to ask you to do right now is, when someone asks you, what are you studying? What do you say to them? Drop that in chat. So if everybody could drop in chat the answer to this question, it might be asked by a family member or another academic. What are you studying? And it doesn't have to be elaborate. It's just that quick question that people ask you. Great, it's starting to come in. Droughts and conflicts, stem cell research, effect, let's see. Oh, they're scrolling quickly. On hydrogen and transportation cooperatives in the journalism sector. What am I missing? DNA architecture and infectious viruses. Effects of nanomaterials in the lungs. Geography with a focus on homes and people. Nice. I'm a geographer, so I appreciate that. Workplace violence prevention. Ecology of ticks and tick-borne pathogens, the bacteria that makes you sick. Right. Maize root responses to phosphorus, studying how probiotic bacteria provides benefits to the host and interact with each other. Autism as a neurodevelopment disorder. Great, so perfect. This is like your broad area of study, right? And what you're trying to do, what you're trying to find out. Well, we're going to give you a few examples of how you might talk about that in a different way. And so, David, if you're ready, I can pass that on to you.
Yeah, if we can jump to the next slide.
Okay. Whoops, went too far.
Yeah. So I love the way that everyone's kind of describing their kind of like what you study in the chat is in this like broad topical level. But as soon as we get into kind of a formal and someone asks you what you study, or if I would say even more when you're standing up in front of a group or in front of a room, no one says, I'm studying representations of dreams in early modern literature and leaves it at that, right? Oftentimes what happens is we stand up and might say something like, I'm studying Melville's opus, Moby Dick, to examine how syntactic phenomena serve to depress the importance of class structure in the mid-19th century as it's related to maritime economies and the law. And that will mean something to the person who spent 45 minutes crafting that sentence, maybe two members of their, of their department, and one person in a similar department at a separate university. But that's not going to mean an awful lot to anyone kind of in the broader public or anyone, frankly, who hasn't sat down and spent the time to kind of parse that language and figure out like what you're trying to hone in there. At the same time, you don't want to say, I study Moby Dick, because the question is going to be, why? What exactly is interesting about that? Why do I care about that? And so what we want to do with kind of the structure and approach is to capture all of the same information that that kind of like labored passage had, just in a way that is accessible to everyone else. So again, I don't want to just leave it at, oh, I don't think my audience is going to understand, so I'll just say I study Moby Dick and hope that they're interested in that. But I'm also not going to be talking about syntactic phenomena, or why anyone should care about, you know, mid-19th century maritime economies. And so one of the biggest things we can do to accomplish this is to try to attach kind of the specifics of what I'm working on to things that my audience is already going to be familiar with. So syntactic phenomena might turn into grammar and word choice. Okay, something like 19th century maritime economies might turn into like talking about class structure in New England and the UK, kind of things that are like much more tangible and easy for people to attach to. So the way we thought we would change that kind of messier version would be into something like, I'm studying the grammar and word choice in Moby Dick and comparing it to other less influential and enduring writing from the same time period to see how it influenced our perception of class structure in seafaring economies, such as New England and the UK. And so you'll notice what I'm doing here is trying to preserve all the information from like the really precise description. I'm not leaving things out because I feel like my audience won't understand them or won't be interested in them. What I'm doing is taking every part of that and giving it a reference that any audience can understand. You know, we all talk about grammar. We all, you know, can at least look up where the New England region is and where the UK is. And because it's not important to my audience without more information that it's the 19th century specifically, what I'm instead doing is kind of talking about what I'm doing. Like, what am I doing day to day? What does the research actually consist in? And it consists in kind of comparing this writing to similar writing from the same time period. And so that's how we kind of apply the framework of like talking broadly about what you're studying, and what you're trying to figure out, but also with an element of how you're doing that. And this can come in at really any part of your studies. It can be right at the end when you want to be talking very specifically about your methods, very specifically about, you know, why you chose to answer your question one way rather than another. Or it can come very early. Maybe you're a second year, you know, PhD student, and you've only just chosen your topic. Okay, then what are you doing? What you're doing might be gathering a bunch of literature in the area, might be comparing and synthesizing writing that's already been done, or other research that's been done. But that's how you communicate to your audience what you're working on.
So we're going to try another example of this. So this beautiful picture is of the Baltic Sea. So I say that I were to say to you, I study inter and intra-biome factors such as salinity, sedimentary drift from 1891 to 1967, and water clarity compared to Lake Ladoga and the North Sea to model the environment of microorganisms currently living in the Baltic Sea. Seems plausible, but I don't know why, as a listener, I would necessarily care about that. And I might not have followed everything that you tried to tell me. Or even why it matters to you. I know in the workshop description we were talking about, one of the things you want to do is tell us why it matters to you and why it's important. So I might want to rework this for different audiences, either for my elevator pitch, for the Grad Slam competition, or just for conversation in general when I'm networking at a conference. I might say something to the effect of, I'm studying the water quality of the Baltic Sea to determine how the last century of changes due to human activity is impacting environmental health. Right? So I've left out some of the nitty-gritty details, right, about sedimentary drift and salinity, but we might get to that if we're in a conversation, or it might be something that I touch on a little later in the presentation, but I've communicated then more clearly and succinctly what I'm trying to do. So you kind of see the difference there. And in David's example with Moby Dick, that of course what we're doing, we always want to have our scholarly work acknowledged and known, and for people to understand it from that perspective. But as David was saying, it might just be a few people in the audience or in the room that know what you're talking about. So it helps to really kind of bring up the importance of it, and thinking about your audience members and stakeholders and what they might want to know. Are you ready to try one last one? Because this time we're going to call on you to help us recraft the next one. Whoops.
So we just gave 2 examples where you had like kind of a lot of information to go with, but this third example is kind of in the opposite direction, where sometimes what you're working on is very easy to understand and very intelligible, but it's not really clear what impact it has or what importance it has. Someone might say, I study the way squirrels flip their tails. And that can actually be very specific. You could get into a lot of detail about the exact, maybe you're looking at the angle or the frequency, or kind of like other factors around that. But trying to connect that to what your audience cares about is going to be the greater challenge. So something here I would look at is, why are you studying the way that squirrels flip their tails? And it might just be because, this is an open, unanswered question in the field of squirrel science, or the subfield of squirrel science. And this is something that would be useful for kind of other reasons connected in the discipline, but aren't really immediately obvious, especially if that's not further work that you intend to do. I know in my own PhD, a lot of the work I did was foundational for other questions I had no interest or intention of answering. But it's important to bring those questions in to connect to the work that you're doing so your audience understands what the purpose is. And so here I would say something like, I'm still just going to say, I study how squirrels flip their tails. And this is important because it models how communication that is necessary for survival can be understood in kind of like non-linguistic ways. So we can take something like squirrels and see the same importance of communication for survival among their communities, and maybe between communities and across communities, even without any linguistic basis. And this is very different from studying humans or dolphins, for example. And so while we're giving you a framework, we're not giving you a structure or a Mad Lib. Okay, the idea is just to kind of accomplish certain goals, and it's going to be different kind of depending on what the barriers to understanding are for your particular subject. And frankly, unless you happen to be working on a cure for cancer, there are going to be barriers. There are going to be things that could potentially disengage your audience, and you want to make sure you address those really directly.
And I think you can see from these 3 really vignettes that the theme here is we're really telling you what research is being done. We're not dumbing it down. Sometimes I think people think, it's this communicating this elevator pitch is making it so simple that the idea is lost or the importance is lost. But instead, again, we're elevating the importance of why and talking about how that connects to other things. So those are kind of some key themes. Next, what we want to do is we're going to have you work on your pitch, your presentation, because we want you to come away from this hour session with some actual product and something to take with you. So here are some questions that typically are asked. Why does your work matter? These are not little questions, right? What do they value? So that is, what does the audience value? What's important? And what do you want to help people know or understand about what you do? So I would recommend not doing this as a series of questions. We're going to put you in breakout rooms of 3. You're each going to have 3 minutes to talk about this. And then we're going to bring you all back together and do a debrief. But again, the idea is not that you march to these questions, but instead think about what is it you want to tell the audience, why the work matters, how, what do the stakeholders value, what's important, and then what you want to help them know. So you can do that in any order. So David, do you have the breakouts ready?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize this is a pretty short session overall, so please don't take a bunch of time introducing yourselves to each other at the beginning in like roundtable fashion. Please just go ahead, dive in, let the introduction of your research be your introduction of yourself, and use these 3 bullet points as a rubric for giving feedback on how your partners are introducing themselves.
Because you each literally have 3 minutes, so.
All right, so here we go. Rooms are open, and you should be able to join them now.
So Mark, Emily, Bruno, oh, okay. If you don't see, are any of you having trouble finding your room? Because we can send you to the room if that'd be helpful. Emily and Gerlarai, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Do you need any help?
Looks like Emily is joining from another device, maybe?
Oh, okay, excellent. And Gelara or Gelara?
Yeah, feel free to unmute if you need any help.
Oh,
they were.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I now seem to be in this twice, and when I tried to join a room, it like cut me out, so I'm not too sure what happened. I'm sorry about that.
No worries. Let me see if I can assign you. Hopefully you should be getting an invitation to a room.
I think she did, and then this is just probably an artifact. Okay, so 19, 20, 22.
Then I need to move people around because we got some attrition, so
okay.
I'm trying to get people into rooms with other people.
I know, whenever you say breakout, people run for the hills.
Yeah.
They're like, okay.
There we go. Okay, everyone has at least one partner.
Okay, so then 21, 22, 20. So at 24, we should send a message.
Yep.
27 and what, 29? No, 30.
30.
Yep. Okay. And I think only you can do that as a host.
Yeah.
Seemingly. Okay. Is your tip sheet on the website now?
It is.
Oh, good. The only other thing
I vividly remember my struggling to remember how to upload a PDF in the older
I know
website again, where I'm just like, where's that button?
All the time. There's not, right? You have to go in and like click the link thing and then just randomly put it somewhere. It's a little disconcerting.
Well, it's just like my mind doesn't immediately go to like it will be within the hyperlink area. I'm always like, it'll be a separate thing. And then
I can't imagine we're alone in that. It's completely confusing.
Yeah, well, I feel like there's a reason Site Farm doesn't work that way. And it's because it didn't seem like a great idea.
I would pause our recording, but I'm going to forget to turn it on again.
Yeah, I think it's better to keep it as one continuous thing as well for Jonathan, probably.
Okay. And the other thing we don't really cover is any technique with, well, we do have the Zoom filming, right? So I guess, no, that's all we need. Never mind. Because it should just be them because they're submitting their slide.
Yeah, I mean, with the slot, I feel great about this. I feel like we went from a fairly complicated thing that was going to need a lot of advice and going to cause a lot of anxiety about how do I make all this work at the same time to just like, you need to appear on camera.
Yeah.
It's much simpler.
Done. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't had a chance to go through Heidi's email, and so they're doing multiple videos. It sounded like.
Yeah, I think the idea is that they're gonna do like social media stuff, maybe.
Hello, did you get dumped out? Oh, people are coming back. Are you all done?
Yeah, we finished.
Oh, good. Well, you're on it, but I think David, you want to send the message to the other groups to change people? It may be about 6 more minutes.
Okay.
So did you come up with some good conversations? The genesis of your pitch?
Yeah, we each kind of gave our brief, I guess it was less than 3 minutes each, but it was our brief kind of introduction to our research and why it's important. And so it was good.
Great. Good job.
So I don't use the broadcast feature very often.
Uh-huh.
I'm hoping that those broadcasts just went out. It doesn't give me a confirmation or anything.
Oh.
So.
Well, when you click on, Linnea, do you have a?
I was going to say, I saw the message pop up. I'm pretty sure it went out.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
So is anyone competing in Grad Slam? Already know that they might compete in Grad Slam? Nope, just here to prepare your message and great, yeah. David, did we broadcast the questions? Because I see in chat.
We did.
Oh, good. Okay.
Again, I had no confirmation that it worked, but I tried to. So.
But no one's messaging us, so I think that it probably did.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back for those of you who are back. We're going to let the rest of the group finish with their process.
Sorry I'm late. I had another meeting that ran up against this meeting. I just popped in and I realized other people must be in breakout rooms right now.
They are, yeah. But they'll be back shortly.
Yeah, no worries. We'll also make a recording of the session available, so you'll always be able to go back and see the first part that
Perfect.
That did this.
Oh my god. How do you say your last name, David?
Blantra.
I get so many emails from you and I've never seen your face.
Yeah.
Dillinger. These names are so familiar to me.
Yeah. That's what people say to me. I feel like my fame is through email and
totally
nothing else. Yeah.
UC Davis celebrities here.
We've got it diffused across 3 different names now, so it could be even 3 times greater, I guess.
Do you want to send the second broadcast?
Yeah. Got it.
And maybe, David, you could also just broadcast once they're done, they can pop back into the main room. Oh, and actually, I'm going to pull back host, David, since I'm going to set up the next set of breakouts. No?
We should.
Don't do that yet? Okay.
Let's do that after everyone's back from the
No,
breakouts, just in
it's
case.
Terrifying, right? Yeah. Let's not break it.
Imagining my big control panel here vanishing on me. Everyone who's back with us, we've got about 2 minutes before we're going to pull in the whole group.
Okay, it looks like everybody's coming back. Is that everyone, David, or the breakout room's closed?
We've still got one tenacious group.
Making good progress on their talk.
All right, great. So welcome back, everyone. Now we want to debrief that a little bit. So hopefully everyone had a chance to kind of introduce themselves and their work and get some feedback on kind of these three, as they were saying, like kind of like rubric items, okay? Because not everyone's work, in fact, I would say most people's work doesn't lend themselves to just answering these questions all in a row and have that be like the most compelling way to introduce your research, but rather that you find a way to give a pitch that answers all of these questions. So I'd like to ask for a volunteer or two to kind of share the description you came up with in your groups. Can feel free to unmute, or if you prefer not to talk for any reason, that's fine. You can shoot it into chat and I'll read it for you.
I know that I joined late and I was not in a breakout room, but I was just describing these questions to my boyfriend, who is also a work collaborator. And I know I missed the first part, but the thing that's standing out to me right away is that, like, to whom my work matters, like who my stakeholders are, changes depending on how I frame it. And like how I like, and that's the first thing that popped in my head, is that like, to whom it matters and what they value could be a lot of different people. And I think one thing I'm just turning over and hoping to think more about in this presentation of like, who do I want my work to matter to in some ways? And can I have some like agency in deciding like what I think they should understand and who should care and what they should value, which is something I've really been struggling with my research lately.
Yeah, I think there's a really helpful perspective I've found for thinking about that is kind of taking an approach of radical inclusivity along those lines. So the way I had it described to me was that if I assume that other people generally care about other people, then there's a way for my work to matter. If my work matters to anyone, then it matters to everyone. Basically, just on this idea that like, if I can describe who this matters to, who this really impacts, that will make it important to other people because they care about that group.
Yeah.
Even if they're not a member of it.
I love it. It's like, I think sometimes, and I'm an 8th year PhD student technically. I think you're reminding me of that like enthusiasm and optimism I had when I started, which is like, everyone should care about this. And then that kind of getting like whittled down, chipped away at over the years and being like, 6 people care about this. But it's a nice return to like, if you are human and you're interested in humans and the human experience and you care about people, care about things, like there might be something interesting here. I love the radical inclusivity of who this matters to. Yeah.
So I'm going to invite again, if anyone would be willing to share kind of a pitch about their work, or questions you have about how to describe your work. I can see we're all experiencing diffusion of responsibility in real time. All right.
I mean, maybe another way to ask this is, you all were in rooms with people who gave a particularly compelling pitch or talk, and you don't have to call them out. You just might say, what was it about that got you excited? And you can drop that in chat if you want, or you can just unmute and tell us. Yeah, if you were a class and I was TAing, I'd call in.
I was about to say that. I use cold calling in my classrooms, but it's all right. We can swap. So plan B.
I think I heard somebody start to say something though. Was there somebody who was gonna?
Yeah, it was me. This is Sudiksha. So I'm a student in geography. Basically, I was partnered with. I was partnered with Joanna. I think that's how I pronounce it. So basically, we were both were at the ends of a different subjects. So she was studying cancer and the benefits of how people have to be informed about diet, and I am studying like homes and people and culture. So we two were studying. I think she's a very hard science, and I'm completely like more like studying human experiences and behavior. I think, based on my work, I would say like my work matters since I'm trying to study Nepali people, Nepali diaspora, and I believe they're like underrepresented groups that has been studied in terms of like immigrant groups. So I think, I'm not sure if my work matters to them or it should matter to them. I think that work matters to me because I want to understand their experiences, and I believe that they are underrepresented. But I don't think it's the case where the subject themselves feel that it matters to them. But if I help them understand why this is important, I think then it starts to matter to them. So I think it's more like, it's not a linear process like these questions. It's more like an iterative process as well. So I think that's what my point is.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic example of a subject where the reason the reason you want to answer certain questions oftentimes isn't because it has an immediate application. And that's often the things that a lot of, especially earlier stage researchers, run into, where you're doing work because it increases your capacity to understand for other things, but that increased capacity isn't the same as, I don't know, making a medicine or building building a device that could kind of like immediately be applied in the world. But again, here's where I think that idea of kind of like radical inclusivity and care can be really useful. Is so what you need to lean on is, why is understanding valuable? And here you're in the most your current audience are the people for whom that's the easiest sell. It's we see the inherent value in building knowledge, and so the way I would pitch that kind of subject is to really focus in on, this is what we don't know. We do not understand this, and it's valuable to know, because that will uncover all these other questions. And relying on your audience's natural curiosity. So the way I would pitch that would be to try to come up with some really concrete examples of the experience that just, I don't want to sound confounding necessarily, but as close to confounding as you can get is going to be the way to approach that.
I think this example too really struck me because years ago I had a colleague who was also a grad student when I was a graduate student, and her work was she was Vietnamese American, and her work was studying the nail industry, the people who do your fingernails and pedicures and manicures. And her biggest struggle was not with getting others to care, but to get the subjects she was talking with to even tell her about it. They would all say, who cares about what I do? Who cares that I do nails or pedicures? This is not important. And so she had to find a way to actually pitch to them to say, here's why I want to know, and here's why it's important. So kind of that reverse pitch, think of it that way.
Great. So before we move on, I'd like to do one more example. So I'll give it, say 20 seconds for another volunteer.
I will try my.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'm in microbiology program. My study is focusing on generation of enhanced antiviral sensors. Now I'm testing the antiviral effects of these enhanced antiviral sensors on different type of viruses, including dengue virus, pox virus, and also coronavirus. Some of them work, so I've been generating multiple constructs, and some of them work, so we hope it's going to work for coronavirus too. So obviously this work is matter for everyone, as we are in current pandemic right now.
Excellent. Fantastic. So I love, my favorite part about the way that you pitch that entire thing really comes down to what might seem like a throwaway is really engaging for the audience. We've tried a bunch of things and some of them are working and some of them aren't, is the way that you give, a member of the press or the broader public real insight into what you are doing every day. It's very easy for us in our own disciplines, especially, to take for granted that people know what we're doing in our research. Like, what does researching the coronavirus mean? What does researching these other viruses mean? And something as simple as saying, there's a bit of a trial and error and we're looking for the methods that work, actually gives them insight into what you're doing, which might be very different from someone working on the same subject doing data analysis, for example, or maybe you later working on the same subject when you get to that stage of the research. And so I feel like those are the kinds of small details that we can forget to include kind of from engagement to engagement. One time I describe it that way and it lands really well, but next time I forget about those little touches that make it easier for your audience to kind of get inside of what you're doing. All right. So if we can, we're going to slide over to our next breakout session. And this time we're going to just go with partners rather than trio. We might have one trio if the numbers don't quite work out. And what we want to do now is to construct a fuller narrative. So the idea here is not to just answer what you're working on. Like we were kind of talking just like broadly, what's the topic, what's the subject of what you're working on. We want you to tell the story of what you do. Okay, and so this is sort of like, I think the best setup for this is I'm at a dinner party, I'm meeting my parents' friends, I'm meeting my grandparents' friends, and they say, what do you do all day? Like, what is going to work actually mean to you? And you know they're not asking like, oh, I TA 20% of the time, and then I'm in the lab, or I do research as percent. They actually want to know like, no, what does the research constitute? And so we're going to put you with a partner to brainstorm, and we're also have this this worksheet available. I would encourage you, if you think you can do this without the worksheet, that's probably a little bit better. But if you find yourself getting stuck at all, this worksheet's going to be a good way to kind of prompt you to think through all the pieces of that story that you would need to tell. So we're going to send you to breakout rooms. And warning, if it's not obvious, we're going to ask you to share when you come back. So please be prepared, again, to kind of produce something that you don't mind sharing with the rest of the group so that we can all learn from each other.
Let me just rebalance things a bit. So
I'm sorry, and can you show the prompt that was the slide before this, which is what I think had the actual questions on it, or is this the prompt that we're using?
So this is, the prompt is basically the worksheet, but if you can just answer the question of, you know, what do you do all day?
What do you do all day?
That'll get you more natural syntax for actually talking through what you're doing, whereas the worksheet's a little bit question and answer.
all right, everybody ready? Everybody got it? All right, we're sending you off. Let's see. Bruno, are you able to join? I'm going to move, let's see. Bruno, you can unmute if you like, if you're having trouble.
Bruno's trying to log in on a different computer.
Okay, I'm going to move the person that would be in his room to another room. And then I'll move him.
Can you let Bruno in? He's back in the waiting
room.
room.
Oh, yes. I can find my waiting room. Oh, yes, he is. Okay. And then, okay, Bruno, I'm going to try to put you in a room. Let's see how I do that. There we are.
Okay, I think that you can hear me now. Can you?
Yeah.
Yep.
I just assigned you to room 1. Do you see a prompt? There.
Oh, there you go.
You must have.
All right.
That's a little tricky. I had to do a few rooms of 3. Well, 2 rooms of 3, but hopefully that'll work out.
All right, so then I'm going to talk about application, how, where to, and then Q&A, and then I'll share the Grad Slam page.
Grad Slam. And then the hook if we have time for it. Yeah. I think though the page is great because they can see their videos and know the hook is there too.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if we're really crunched on time, we can turn the Grad Slam part, like that can be 30 seconds of like,
yeah, sure.
Go here, this is what it is, we think it's cool.
Yeah, and I don't get a sense, many people here are not here for that, so.
Yeah.
How long are we giving them for this part? 6 minutes?
We had 6 minutes.
Oh, wait.
I think.
I actually don't have a time for this one.
I had 6 minutes in my side notes, but okay. I don't know if I copy pasted that. But do we want to pull them back at like 52?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that sounds good. And give them the extra minute, or pull them back at 51 and.
I think pull them back at 51. Because I feel like if we even get 2 questions, we're going to be pretty tight on time.
Okay, so that's really 2 minutes, right? So I'm going to tell them. Okay, should I close the room?
I think I'll give them another minute.
Okay.
Or I guess at least until the clock turns over to 51. Because then we'll give them the 60-second countdown.
Okay, it's turned over.
Yep. So it always surprises me how quickly I start recognizing students' names.
Mm-hmm. And that you're famous.
Well.
I just hit the lip background. I'm in the middle of talking with my partner.
Oh, that happened. It's so easy to do.
Sorry, Isaac. I hit the lip background room.
You can continue talking, the two of you, if you like, while people come back.
We are talking about my project, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, so I meant to ask. So the constructs that you're developing, they're also meant to mimic like immune evasion.
Yes. It's kind of mimic innate immune response. It's between 2 different innate immune sensors. Maybe we can talk about this again later.
Yeah, understandable.
So I think almost everybody should be back, although I'm still kind of seeing names in rooms. Let's see. But no, it looks like people are back. I think we're good. So we do want you to share if you'd like to share a little bit about what you discussed.
I can go. I'll try mine. So my name is Joanna. I'm a second year PhD student, and my research focus is nutrition and cancer. And more specifically, we're asking the question if diet and nutrition could play a role in cancer prevention. And we're specifically looking at the deadliest cancer, pancreatic cancer. And many people with that disease, they find out about it very late in the stages. And so my research is asking the question if it would be possible to, in those stages before the cell becomes cancerous, make a dietary change to prevent cancer. And I think this is important for helping humans live longer, healthier lives.
Great, that was fabulous. Everybody was clear, right? You know what she's studying and what she's trying to do and why it matters. And I think that would be, as David said, radically inclusive for everybody, important to everybody.
Actually, the one thing that it makes me really want is as soon as I hear dietary change, that's something that my brain immediately goes, oh, that's so ripe for points of connection, because I think a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about food and the types of food that they're eating. So I feel like that's a great opportunity to say something about like, what kind of dietary changes are you looking at? Even if it's like, and especially if those have anchors, but lower carb diets or like kind of like whatever kinds of increased fruit in your diet or something like that. That's the kind of thing that can be super, super memorable for someone when they might be hearing about a lot of different research, but that's the kind of thing that can really connect with someone if it like hones in on part of their own life in that way.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we have time for one more. Anybody else want to share?
I can go.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Linnea. I'm a 6th year PhD candidate in psychology, and I study how our social relationships can protect us from everyday challenges and stressors. In particular, I study social interactions between coppery TT monkeys. These are a non-human primate species that form lifelong monogamous pair bonds, and they form these with their partners, and infants also form really strong bonds with their parents. And for my research, I study how the quality of relationship between fathers and daughters influences hormonal and behavioral responses to social challenges. I also study how this relationship with the father later influences a bond that a female will later have with her partner as an adult. And I think especially now with many of us being separated from others due to the pandemic, it's important to understand how our social relationships can offer these protective health benefits and how we might take advantage of these naturally occurring physiological processes that may benefit those who might be lacking these social connections right now.
Terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. The one thing I would like a tiny bit more of is whenever you describe your research as I study how these things happen or how these things interact. That's just like it's so nice to get like a tiny example in there. So when I hear how, what I really want is to turn it into a whether. So how going from like how these social like let's say how our social relationships protect us, if that can turn into whether social relationships of a certain kind protect us in a certain way, can be a lot more powerful. I think when you have, I feel like every bit of that description is nice and intelligible, but there's a repetitiveness to it if you kind of describe all those phenomena as I study how. So that can be a nice way to break things up again.
That is so useful. Sorry. Like whether social relationships of this kind have certain types of benefits, it's so useful. Sorry. Okay.
Great. Speaking of useful, Grad Slam.
So I'm going to go. Teresa,
I have to let you share
enable me here. We're gonna gain the quick sell here. And all right, so we have very little time, and the purpose of this session is not to, strong arm you into competing in Grad Slam or anything like that, but we want to make sure you're aware of it because it's coming up, and this is exactly if you're interested in developing these skills, this is what the Grad Slam competition was created for. Whether or not you decide to compete. So all of the information is accessible at grad.ucdavis.edu/GradSlam. Pretty easy to find. Come to our website. It's on the front page to a link to get here. So anything you miss will be easy to grab. Registration is already open, and your first competition round is due February 11th. This year, everything's being done on video, so we've really kind of simplified things. So the point of the competition is to describe your research in 3 minutes in a way that is engaging and accessible by the public at large. And so you get one slide. The emphasis is not on your slide, but a lot of topics can benefit from some visual support. Last year's winner used a slide of a husk of corn with giant biceps, and that can be all that is included in your slides. So that should be a very minimal part of it, and the rest of it is 3 minutes of your wonderful face and body talking about your research. What I really want to highlight here is we have a whole funnel of research of resources to prepare you to compete. So if you want to compete, you're not all on your own. We have all sorts of resources for you here, recordings of past workshops. This is where the recording of this workshop will show up. We've got tip sheets on how to perform your best. And if you win, you win legit money. And everyone could actually use a little more of that. I don't want to say now more than ever, but now, just like all other times, if this is something you're putting a lot of work into and committing the time to, why not take a shot? Is kind of that's my sell for Grad Slam.
Yeah, and we hope if you're interested in competing, you can also go to the page and see some videos of past competitors. One of the things that they use to great effect is something called the hook, and you've probably heard this term before, but just briefly, because I know we are out of time, to just say that the hook is often something like a catchy question, and our winner last year, who actually went on to win the year before actually, who went on to win the whole competition for UC, her question was, how many people want to eat lunch today? And then how many in 20 years? So it might be a question, it might be a fun fact, it might be imagine a world where, that kind of thing is a hook that can serve you well. So when you watch those videos of past competitors, look for their hook, see if you can identify it. And finally, just our contact information. If you have any questions, if you need any help, we're really here to support presentation and skills of this sort. So we have a whole webpage devoted to that with additional resources beyond Grad Slam. For instance, you may or may not know, but the Center for Educational Effectiveness will actually review your presentations and go over, the effectiveness of that. They have consultations for that, and there are a lot of other resources. So thank you for coming. I did drop in chat our survey about the, an evaluation for this workshop. This is the first time we've done this particular one, so we would welcome your feedback and some suggestions of what might make that best for you. And thank you for coming. David and I'll hang out a few minutes if you have additional questions for us.
And if you have to run, I really encourage you to feel free to email us with questions. I know we ran out of time for Q&A for many people.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for coming.
You. Bye.
Thank you. I have a quick question. So are we able to edit or sort of get do something for the worksheet that you provided? It seems very useful for us for our research.
You can download it. Do you mean make it editable? Is that what you're asking?
Editable. Mm-hmm.
If you know, I can send you the Word version of that. Why don't you email me at gpi@ucdavis.edu, and I can yeah, send you the unlocked version of that.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Will, it's great to see you. How are you doing?
It's good. How about yourself?
Good. Very good. Yeah.
Good. Great to
Are
see
you
you.
going to do Grad Slam again this year? Going to give it a shot?
I'm considering. I have to, I guess, figure out how this video thing is going to work.
Yeah, we tried to make it real simple.
Mm-hmm.
All you got to do is submit any video file and your one slide as an image. So you can just record yourself right on Zoom.
All right.
Yeah, just as you are now.
Hopefully it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of competitions are going to this because none of us can do anything in person. So
right.
Yeah.
Now, is it one slide? Does that include the title slide?
So we're not going to do any title slides or anything because the judges are just going to open the slide as a completely separate thing along with your video. We're trying to make it easy for them as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I might have to give it a shot.
Yeah. That'd be great.
This is now, I guess, learning how to present virtually.
Yeah, a whole other skill set, right? And
That's right.
You never know if you'll need to do that. If you are doing a teaching gig, even after we come back from COVID, I think that there'll be people who feel like this asynchronous content where you record part of your lecture, have the students view it, and then do something else during class might be really beneficial.
That's right. That's right. All right. And y'all doing all right?
Yeah, fine. And I apologize.
Walker Hall?
Are we going to move into Walker Hall? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Have y'all moved in, or is this just the Corona stuff?
we've got there's things there. Keys maybe.
The furniture's there. We understand they're moving our stuff there early February, but it takes some of the wind out of our sails that we can't really go there and open it up, right? I mean, I'm in my office today in grad studies, but so I probably will do stuff from Walker Hall too. Yeah, but looking forward to seeing you in 3D someday.
That's right. We'll all have our holograms or something by then.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to apologize to you both, but I'm actually in another meeting that started at 1, so I'm going to roll off, jump onto that. But so good to see you, Will.
Yes, y'all too.
All right.
See you.
Bye. Oops, let's see. Oh, I guess I ended if Mark, did you have any questions? Not sure if Mark is really there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to end it for all of us then.
All righty.
See you later, David.
See you, Teresa.